You can add just like a capful or a teaspoon of any of those extracts, and it's a whole different thing. It makes a whole different flavor. It's really enjoyable. And experimenting with those. They're little bottles. Sometimes in the stores, they're kind of expensive. Again, I have found them at the dollar store for $1, right? Which is fantastic. Or you can buy them online, and they're cheaper too. So that's another thought, is the extracts. So then peanut butter. The keto sweeteners, we talked about the ones that we really love, the ones that behave the best in most of the recipes. We love Swerve. Swerve is a really good example. And the reason we like Swerve, you can buy it online, cheapest of all, at Amazon for us, is that it comes in the different textures. So when you're making a frosting, for example, you want a powdery texture. And they have that. They have a version that's like confectioner's sugar. And it's super sweet. I don't taste the aftertaste. Some people say it has it. I don't get it. There is one that's a brown sugar version. And there's some recipes that call for brown sugar because it's a moisture, grainier texture. They have a white plain version that looks just like table sugar, that you would put in your coffee, right? And the beautiful thing for us on Amazon is that some of them are grouped together. So I can order a powder, a granular, and a brown all together, and I've got my full repertoire. When we first started out, we bought a smaller bag, one at a time, because we were testing them, and you can do that. But once you realize what you want to do, then maybe just one of them, you want to get a larger bag, right? And we are still sourcing that, because right now, the bags are like, I think the biggest one we've been able to find is like a pound. And we do a lot of baking and stuff here because we're experimenting with recipes that we're showing everybody. And so we're going to try to look and see if we can source a bigger package. Right. And if we can, we'll let you guys know because I think it'll be cheaper.
And there's also the monk fruit.
Yeah, so that's Swerve. Swerve is basically erythritol. It's basically erythritol. And anything that's added to it does not nudge you one way or another. It doesn't have any effect and there's no toxicity. So we like Swerve. The monk fruit is our other go-to, and they also have a granulated version and they have a brown version. They don't have a powdered version that we've been able to find, although people say it exists, but we've never been able to buy it. Monk fruit is a natural substance, and it's an actual fruit, and it is processed down to grains of like sugar-like substance, just like beets. So a beet turns into beet sugar. Monk fruit turns into monk sugar. It's exactly the same thing. It's probably the purest one because of its stability. They don't really add anything to it, so it is the purest. The problem with it is that it's often more expensive than Swerve for some reason, probably because it's a natural product. And it only seems to come in like a half a pound package. And so that's why we tend to go with Swerve because we can get bigger packages of it. But it is an excellent, for people that aren't using as much, it's an excellent sugar and no aftertaste. No one has ever said to me that monk fruit has an aftertaste. So that's something to think about. When you put things in baked goods, even if it has an aftertaste, it usually disappears. When you're drinking it in like coffee or tea, that's when you might taste it. So either one of those for baking is fine. We also hear about, but we haven't used, allulose. And you'll find certain recipes say, if you don't use allulose, this isn't going to bake the same way, or it's not going to come out the same way. So if you don't have allulose, and don't do that recipe because you might be wasting your ingredients, allulose is available, I looked it up, online from places like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and those kind of like specialty shops, and I'm sure health food stores carry it. I haven't been able to find it very easily on Amazon. I found it once, but they were sold out. So I don't think it's as it's high produced as much. Maybe that will change because there is really a keto craze going on, and it may make it more available, but that one is harder to find. It's supposed to be super great, and you're supposed to be able to use, like if you would use a tablespoon of Swerve, you could use like a quarter teaspoon.
It's more concentrated.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, but I don't know. Haven't been able to test it yet. So those are the ones that we know about. One more, the maple syrup. So there is a special brand of Sugarless maple syrup, and it is available at the dollar store because we found it there. That can be used in baking. That can be, and it's very cheap by comparison. And you can also use it on your pancakes and your muffins and your waffles or anything else that you would normally use it on. One person told me that she's baking a fresh ham, which is very keto, and she's going to use that maple syrup as the marinade because her family likes that sweet salt thing. So it can also be used in cooking, is another thing. Some people bake or barbecue ribs, and that maple syrup is very useful in the sauces for that. So if you like that, again, I will put the exact brand that we like, but I'm sure there's other sugar-frees out there.
There's others, yeah.
On that note, on sauces and things. So there are out in the world sugar-free barbecue sauces and other cooking sauces and even soy sauces and stuff. We think if you like those things, we stay away from a lot of things that are combined and processed and that are made for shelf life because there's a lot of preservatives in them and we don't really like chemicals. So we kind of stay away from that. If we can make a barbecue sauce fresh, we'd rather do that than buy it in a bottle. But it's not as convenient. Some people like those sauces. The only thing we want to caution you is on the salt content, which can be like crazy. Whatever, if you normally eat a salad dressing that has so many milligrams of sodium, we would suggest that you try to stay within that realm. Whatever your dressings are like, try to stay there. Barbecue sauces that are like 5 times the normal intake of sodium, you got to make a decision there. That's a lot. So salts can be a problem. If they say they're sugar-free, make sure to read the label. Because even though they might not have sugar in them, they might have tomato paste and other things in them that actually add quite a lot of carbs. So you got to look at that. So look at the carb count and the nutritional facts. And also look at preservatives. Believe it or not, one of them that does have bacon in it, right? It uses bacon as part of the ingredients. When bacon is fully keto, has sulfides in it, because the bacon does. So now the dressing does. So just be careful. Sulfides are corrupted and not good for you. They are carcinogens. So be careful about that. But just look at everything. This is going in your body. Look at everything. Baker's chocolate we talked about. Completely sugar-free. It is dark. In order to be 100%, it has to be dark. So it's gonna automatically be that. There is a product called Lily's Chips, and as far as we can tell, it is the only one that is putting out absolutely sugar-free chocolate chips. So if you can find another one, let us know, but we have not been able to find it. They're completely sugar-free, and it's delightful to be able to make like chocolate chip cookies that actually look like chocolate chip cookies that have chips in them. Like we've made birthday cakes for people with chocolate chips on top, and they just are so excited by that. And so if you want chips in chip form, Lily's chips are the right one. Those are the keto-friendly ones. Those are the lowest carb. They're just like the baker's chocolate, but they're chips. They are pre-sweetened with erythritol. They're already sweetened. You don't have to do anything with them.
But it's slight. It's not.
Very little. So anyway, that's a thing. We talked about the sweeteners and the extracts. Okay, three things that almost nobody has in their house unless they are already making certain stuff. One is xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is like the seaweed gum that's in ice cream. So xanthan gum, it doesn't give you any extra carbs. It basically creates texture. So when we're making a bread that we want to make sliceable, like we want a bread that we can make a sandwich with or something like that we want a certain texture, xanthan gum is the ingredient. That's what works. And it's natural. So it's made from like seaweed and other natural products. So it's not a processy thing. It doesn't have preservatives in it because it doesn't need it. And you can get it anywhere, and it doesn't matter what the brand is. It could be the cheapest possible xanthan gum that you could find at the dollar store. It could be online at Amazon. It could be at a health food store. They all do exactly the same thing. So xanthan gum, get a small package. It lasts forever. And then also psyllium. It's funny. Psyllium is, you could go to the drugstore.
If the fiber supplement, Metamucil.
Like
That's it.
Metamucil is psyllium.
Psyllium
Gotta be
fiber.
careful though. Metamucil adds sugar to things and flavoring because they want you to put it in water and drink it. But if you get it unflavored, you know, no sugar added and stuff, and look at the ingredients, it's psyllium. So you can actually substitute that. It all works the same way. There's also psyllium that you can buy a package of that's packaged just for baking, but it really isn't different than the other one. If you take a fiber capsule, which we do, but if you take a fiber capsule and you empty it out, that's psyllium. That's what it is. So, but it's really great. And let me explain why you want to have that and don't not put it in your food, okay? So there are several breads on the food plan that are almost zero carbs. Like when you eat them, you get zero net carbs. And the reason is that the amount of carbs that are in them from the almond flour or coconut flour are almost equal to the amount of fiber in them. So when you subtract the fiber, you're almost at zero net carbs. It's like 0.51 or something for a slice. So that's fabulous because you can have a sandwich with bread,
Right.
right? It also goes for other things. We've been able to make croissants. We've been able to make scones, muffins, pizza dough. By adding the fiber to it, we're actually lowering the net carb count. And besides that, doing a fabulous thing for our bodies, because our bodies need fiber, right? For many reasons, to stay regular. Also, yesterday we had the discussion about a clean vascular system. Soluble fiber is magic. Between the fat that we eat and soluble fiber, we are sending a lubricating agent, and we are sending like sponges or scrubbers down every vessel in our body, right out to capillaries, tiny little capillaries, even in our eyes. We are sending that down every single day, cleaning them out. And so the key to a happy long life, a healthy long life, is having a good, clean vascular system and a strong core. And so if you work on those two things, you're going to thank yourself. Your 90-year-old self is going to thank you for having done that. So psyllium fiber is a really good thing. It's really hard to overdo it. You can. People
possible.
go crazy with it and they add it to everything and then they get like gas pain. But if you just add it to various things that you eat throughout a day and you have a couple of tablespoons of it, it doesn't add anything in terms of carb. It actually is subtracted out, and it's really healthy for you. So psyllium fiber, I would say, get a nice big container.
It lasts
so
a long
you
time.
It'll last a long time, and you could add it to things and get creative. If you get the soluble kind, you can add it to your coffee, to your tea, right?
Right.
So psyllium is really good to have. Yeast. So it's interesting. We don't always use yeast to make bread because you got to be careful. You got to match the amount of yeast. Yeast needs sugar, real sugar, to rise, because the yeast eats the sugar and blows up and creates gas and makes yeast bread. And if it's matched right, the keto recipes that we have up there that use yeast, don't worry, there's no net sugar left over. So you can do that.
It's all burned off.
Sugar, you can use honey. I didn't put honey on the list because we rarely use it, right? So, but if you're going to use yeast, you need some form of real sugar, which most of us don't have.
No.
So we use yeast not as a leavening factor to make things bigger. We use it for flavor. So we make a lot of breads that are baking soda based and baking powder based. So they do get nice and high and fluffy and they're delicious. But we throw in an extra half a teaspoon or teaspoon of yeast because we're babies and we like when we bake it to smell it. It just smells marvelous, right? It's so good.
People don't think of yeast as having a flavor.
It does. It does. Make one without the yeast and then add some yeast, and the next time you're never going to want to have it without the yeast.
Right.
The smell is fabulous, and when you eat it, it really tastes more like bakery bread because you've got that yeast flavor. Yeast is, by the way, very nutritionally valuable to you. There's vitamin B and a lot of other things in yeast that are great for you. So we add it, and we think it's very cheap. Even if you buy a jar of it, which will last forever, it's only a few dollars. You can get it by the way, they have it at the dollar store.
They do.
Or if you just buy a few packets. They have little packets that you can buy, and they'll last
Because you
forever.
don't use much.
No. But it's a nice thing to do for yourself. So we do recommend yeast. The other things that we like that not everybody likes, but we like very much is having Jello. We like Jello. We just like Jello. Some people don't like the texture of Jello, but if you beat it up with whipped cream and make it more like a parfait, it's fabulous, which whipped cream you're allowed to have. But it's got gelatin. Jello is gelatin, and gelatin is collagen. And collagen is really good for you, and this is a very cheap source of collagen. So I'm just saying, if you can stomach Jello or if you like it, it's cheap. Again, dollar store often has it, although they often have the sweetened kind. You need the unsweetened kind, which you might have to get at a grocery store. And you can buy it online. So that's another thing.
Right. And we talked about yesterday the benefits of collagen.
Yeah, collagen is our friend. So we like Diet Jello if you like Jello. Other things that, these are extras. These are options. You don't have to do any of these things. We like to have other stuff around the house to drink that's not water, right? We just like it. We like seltzer. We like Diet Tonic, which is really great because you can make a gin and tonic. It's fabulous.
And the quinine helps prevent
Quinine helps with cramping.
cramping.
Very good. Sparkling water. Sometimes that's a little expensive, so we don't always buy that, but sometimes we buy it for a treat, like a Perrier or something. We mentioned yesterday your distilled alcohols, if you like to have a cocktail, which you don't need to have, is very few calories and it is not keto unfriendly, right? It doesn't bring carbs to the table.
Right.
It's the mixers. When you go to a bar and you have a regular drink, it's the mixers that kill you. It is not the
It's
drink.
not the alcohol.
So when I go out for a drink at dinner time, I always say, I would like vodka on the rocks with a twist, because it's very elegant and I feel very cosmopolitan, but it's also perfectly keto. Anything on the rocks is perfectly keto. Or say with seltzer, or you specify, I don't want sugar. And they'll be like, okay, no problem. Bartenders are fabulous about that. With a twist, it always looks beautiful. We also have our own drinks. We make keto cosmopolitans. We make keto everything.
Right.
And we will be publishing
And we
those.
talked about you can get those
Keto in a can.
hard seltzers or
Hard seltzers, hard ciders, all those, but zero sugar. So read the package.
Read the label carefully.
Right. And don't believe keto friendly. Read the package. Because we've read ones that say keto friendly and it's like 8 carbs a can. That's too many for me. I'm not doing 8. 0, I'm super good with. What was the one that we just had that we really like? Pure, is it called?
One's called Pure, I believe.
And one's called Nude?
Nude.
Yeah, Pure and Nude. They have more flavors. So they have like a berry and a cinnamon and an apple and a really nice passion fruit, lemon lime. So if you're really into that and you just want to pour it and it feels like a treat, go for it. They're not that expensive, we find, because a lot of it's water or seltzer. And super treat. Yeah. So that's cool. We do not have a recommended keto beer yet, because all the ones that we've looked at, they are keto friendly in the sense that they're not real beer. They have less carbs, but there's a lot yet. So we're still looking for that. And there are keto wines. There are keto wines and champagnes. They are a lot more carbs than a distilled alcohol. So we don't use those. But in the future we may, and we will be testing those.
So there are low carb wines.
You can go look in your liquor store and read the package. Here's the problem with wine that we're getting feedback on, is that yes, I found a keto wine that is like 2 carbs per serving. The problem is I drank the whole bottle. See, that's the thing about wine.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, there are people that just, like, I'm Italian. The thing is, you drink wine with dinner and that's it. You have a glass of wine with dinner. It's not like out drinking. It's just part of your meal. That would be cool. That would work. But our culture is more like wine is part of like recreation. It's part of a social situation. Can I pour you some more wine? Yes. And so then it's like two bottles empty. So that person said, I'm not going to be doing the wine anymore. That's
right.
Like,
and then it becomes too much.
Right. She said, I can't drink as much vodka. It affects her differently than wine. Wine seems to be less impactful, even though really alcohol to alcohol, you might be having the same amount, but it affects her differently. And she's more careful when she's drinking a 7 and 7 or something like that, like 7, whiskey, 7 and 7, Seagram 7, and Diet 7 Up, which is her go-to drink. She'll only drink 2 of those because that's kind of her limit, what she can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But the diet wine, the keto wine, she could drink the whole bottle and did. So it's kind of like you. Like, can you control yourself?
Portion control.
I don't think I could. I think I would drink the whole bottle. And who wants to leave half a bottle of wine around?
Right.
Like, you don't. You just drink it. So I don't know about that. So that's our shopping.
Michelle was just saying that Sleeman's 2.0 is only 2 grams of carbs.
Is that a beer?
It's a wine.
Yes.
It's a beer.
Is it beer? I haven't tried that.
Yeah.
Michelle, is it delicious? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is it tasty? Because I'm not a real big beer drinker, so I need other people to tell me if things are delicious or not. I don't have a good way to know. It's the only one she drinks. Okay, then I'm going to take that as a recommendation. Okay.
We'll
so
look
yeah,
for that.
we will look for that.
We will look for that.
And if it's good, we'll try it and we'll recommend it. Thank you for that. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
And there are people that are saying, like, can I drink like Kashasta? So Kashasta is a really, really strong, very high alcohol content drink. The alcohol is not keto problem. You can drink it as much as you like. If you drink it straight, no problem. That you always just have to watch mixers. That's all. Whatever you're mixing it with, when you have something that's super strong, if you're not taking shots and you're mixing it with something to offset the flavor, that's what you have to worry about, is the mixer.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So, okay, cool. Well, make sure that we look for Sleeman's 2.0. I like that. That's fantastic.
And she said Pacific is a vodka.
Yeah. Pacific, and there's like Seagrams. There's about 10 of them that are really great vodkas, and there's even really cheap ones.
Mm.
And depending on your budget and your taste buds, like Absolute is Absolute. It's amazing taste. It's very clear. There's no aftertaste, but it's very expensive, right? So, and the one with the swans, Golden Goose.
Grey Goose.
Grey Goose. Beautiful bottle, very expensive, delicious. But do you have that in your budget? I don't know. A lot of our people are kind of low budget people, so we don't want to recommend something that they can't afford. So, right. She says Pacific is cheaper than Nude. So when you're looking at those cans, check out Pacific. Thank you. Because I have not seen that one. I've seen Pure, Nude, and there was another one.
There's another brand too.
Yeah, so there's 3. But you're going to see, I think there's going to be whole shelves of these pretty soon. Little by little, there's getting to be more and more and more keto products. We've noticed it like at Costco. There was only like a few things, and now there's like many more
There's
things.
quite a few.
Yeah. The problem that we have with like Costco is they will put anything on the shelf that says keto friendly, like snack bars and cookies and brownies and all these things. But of course, it's a good product and they should sell it. But when you look at it, all keto products are not created equally. That's why we keep teaching people, look at the label, look at the label, look at the label.
And if you just look at the product label that says keto, you can't just...
Don't necessarily
That's
believe
right.
it.
Don't
If
just
you're
assume.
eating a candy bar or a health bar that it takes the same place as your whole meal, you got to think about the fact that nutritionally it's not giving you all the other stuff you need. So you kind of have to, it's more moving into like lazy keto.
Right.
It's more moving into like dirty keto. You're kind of getting away from clean keto. So you kind of have to make that decision. Okay. So I think that is everything to do with the shopping list. One other thing I wanted to mention is about very common items like ketchup. Right, so some ketchups are very low sugar. Some of the major brands like Heinz and that kind of groups are creating low sugar options. And those are really good if you're on keto. So because you just like ketchup on a hamburger and you don't want to give it up, you can use that product. But regular standard products that we've all used like that can be really detrimental. I was just talking to somebody and she didn't realize how much sugar she was adding to her food. Her food plan was all off because of some of the condiments that she was using. So be very careful about things like ketchup. They are seemingly safe, but they're not. Also pickles. So dill pickles, a lot of them are very low carb, like 1 carb for 2 pickles or a big pickle and that stuff. And pickle juice is really great for you because it's electrolytes. But if you're used to like butter pickles or any of the sliced pickles, some of them have more. So watch the sugar
the
carb.
bread and butter and right.
So those things are a little bit devious. On the good side, olives. So I didn't add olives because that's a luxury and you don't have to have them. But if you add olives to your list, olives have 0 carbs. They are a great source of fat. Really great value for the money. And you could also get hearts of palm. You could get artichoke hearts. You could get roasted peppers. A lot of those things are really low carb and they add like a little spice to life. Yeah, Natura Market. I have heard about that. That's online. Natura Market is online. I don't know. The things that I buy at Natura are a little bit more expensive. Like I could buy the same thing there and Amazon, and that's why I didn't mention it because I always go for the cheapest. But you know, you have to look at what you're buying. There are things that Natura has that Amazon does not have, so you need to do that. But that's a great recommendation. And there is, Heinz has one. That's right.
Low sugar.
Low sugar, right, with
Low
stevia.
sugar.
There are people, though, you got to think about yourself. There are people that, I don't recommend aspartame. That has a lot of side effects for people, so I never, including migraines, so I never recommend aspartame. But some people can use it really easily, no problem. And same thing with stevia. Even though stevia is the most natural product, it comes from a leaf. There are some stevias that are not pure. They're mixed with something else. So you got to be careful. I even saw a stevia mixed with saccharin. So you got to be careful about that. And some people have almost not an allergy, but like a sensitivity to stevia. In fact, one of my daughters can't use it because it makes her feel jittery and it gives her kind of like anxiety. And I don't know what the sensitivity is to that.
I don't know what about it.
It's something about it. And even it's not psychological. Like sometimes she doesn't know that she's eating it. And then she realizes that she has, and that's what the cause is. So use yourself as a lab rat. Try something with those products in it. As long as it doesn't affect you adversely and it works for you from a carb standpoint, it's perfect.
That's great.
Thank you. That's another great suggestion, Michelle. And then there's also combinations of things. We notice that some recipes, we can actually use less sweetener if we up another ingredient. So here's an example. Anything that we bake that has cinnamon in it, anything, it could be bread, muffins, anything at all, pies. If it has more cinnamon in it or cloves or any of those things, we can get away with using like half of the sugar. It doesn't change the outcome of the it's just flavoring really. It doesn't change the texture. And it's a lower carb count for us, makes us happy. And it doesn't taste any different. Like the sugar really gets outweighed by the other flavorings. We're noticing that it's usually the spicy ones. So cinnamon, nutmeg, those kinds of things. Cloves, for some reason, your taste buds react to them a certain way, almost universally. And so just a thought, if you're trying to cut your carb cost or trying to use less sugar, if you cook things, if you bake things that use more spices, it also works with things like if you're making like Mexican food and you don't want to eat a lot of salt, some people are salt averse, you could use more red pepper, or you could use more things that hot sauce that add more heat to it. The more heat, the less salt that they need. Or even just black pepper seems to offset the need for salt. So these are all experiments that you guys need to do. I did not put hot sauce on here, and I did not put mayonnaise because some people hate both of those things. They never eat them. We always have mayonnaise in the house because we use it all the time. We always have sour cream because we use it all the time, and we always use hot sauce. We love hot sauce because, and frankly, hot sauce and sour cream make a fabulous dressing and dip, and hot sauce and mayonnaise make a fabulous dip.
That's right.
So those are just things that we do. Not everybody does.
Right.
And then a luxurious thing that we find is a little expensive. We don't have our garden going right now. Once we have our garden going, and we will raise some fresh herbs and then we will use them more cheaply. But a luxury for us is to buy some fresh basil, like growing basil. They have it at some of the stores. Fresh basil is such a wonderful ingredient to have. You can add it to everything. You can add it to anything you're cooking and it's delicious. But you can also make pesto with it. And I mentioned pesto because it is a basil-based sauce with oil in it, lots and lots of olive oil. And you can add nuts to it. A lot of people use pine nuts,